In this video, we're going to talk about AWS CodeStar. CodeStar is a cloud-based service for creating, managing, and working with software development projects on AWS. You can quickly develop, build, and deploy applications on AWS with a CodeStar project. A CodeStar project creates and integrates AWS services for your project development toolchain. Depending on your choice of CodeStar project template, that toolchain might include source control, build, deployment, virtual servers, or serverless resources, and more. CodeStar also manages the permissions required for project users called team members. By adding users as team members to a CodeStar project, project owners can quickly and simply grant each team member role-appropriate access to a project and its resources. Let's check out an example CodeStar project to see what I mean. For this CodeStar project, I've created an example node template using CodeStar's provided node template. And it looks like as part of the node template, I'm given a few different resources. I have an IDE using Cloud9, and it also looks like I integrate with code commit, code build, and code pipeline. The deployment process for a new CodeStar project looks like this. On the CodeStar dashboard, we'll click Create a New Project. And then we have the option of choosing between many different provided templates. I'm going to use Python as an example and give it an example name. And then it's going to ask me what repository I want to store my code in. If I choose GitHub, I'm going to have to give it credentials or connect to GitHub. But for now, I'm just going to choose code commit. And then you'll notice that for each template, this might be just a little bit different, but what it looks like it's going to provide me for my Python project is source control and code commit, a build step using code build, a test step using code build, and then a deploy step using automated infrastructure as code with CloudFormation, and then monitoring through CloudWatch. For the next step, you'll notice that because I chose code commit, it gives me a clone repository URL already, and then asks me how I want to edit my code. If you choose Cloud9, then nothing else is required. But if you'd like to edit your code through command line tools, Visual Studio, or Eclipse, then you can see instructions for how to connect your code to those editors. I'll click Next. And then, because I've chosen Cloud9, it's going to ask me the type of instance I want to run my Cloud9 environment in. I think T2 Micro is fine. And then I also have the option of configuring the VPC and subnet I want to deploy my environment into. Of course, you've seen Cloud9 set up in another video, so you know you have the option to give your environment a name and a description, as well as configuring your shutdown environment time. I'll leave everything at default and hit Next. And that's all there is to it. AWS is going to take an example Python project and deploy that source code to AWS code commit. It's then going to give me all of the different build, testing, and deploy steps that I mentioned in the different AWS developer tools. Just like my node example from earlier, I'll then have the option of editing my code anytime and then redeploying to my Python code commit repository, which will trigger my build and test pipeline. And that'll wrap it up for our introduction to AWS CodeStar, but if you're going to be doing development in AWS, I highly recommend looking at this on your own time, getting more familiar. And if all of that makes sense, then feel free to move on.